Welcome to Out and About today from wonderful Zuoz in the Engadin Valley. We're here at the Engadin Art Talks to talk with Erling Kagge. He's a Norwegian explorer, art collector, writer and publisher. He's best known for his expeditions to the South Pole, North Pole and for climbing Mount Everest. But I will be talking about art collecting with him because he wrote this book, A Poor Collector's Guide to Buying Great Art, where he gives advice on how to buy great art with a limited budget. So Erling, you wrote A Poor Collector's Guide to Buying Great Art. I have the German copy here. So you say one does not need a lot of money to buy great art?
No, I don't think so. You can buy some great editions easily in all over Switzerland. And during Art Basel, many people offer you some great editions by some of the greatest artists on earth for 300 euros, 500 euros, 1,000 euros each. So, of course, that's a kind of low level in terms of expenses for a collector. And then you can buy more unique pieces. That's going to cost a lot more money. But to get started, you need surprisingly little money. And that's what I want to write about.
Okay, so let's say a person has $5,000 US. What shall this person do if he wants to get started?
I think, for $5,000 you can buy, as I said, you can buy some great editions by some of the best artists in the world. And we will still have $2,000 or $3,000 left. And for those money, you should subscribe to some great art magazines, buy some books, and maybe travel to Basel for the fair or something else and to see some great art. Because you collect art by your eyes, you need to see a lot. But you also collect art with your ears and with your nose, so you really have to get into it, and that takes some time. And then maybe you should earn some more money so you could buy even more art.
Okay. So there are these crazy record sales at auctions, at fairs sometimes, like that recent banana taped to the wall by Maurizio Cattelan, which sold for $120,000 US at Art Basel Miami. What do you make of these prices? Is this even justified?
Absolutely. I think it's. I think for the ones who bought that banana, I think it was, a very, very good purchase. But I'm not thinking about it as an investment. I'm thinking more like consumption. You buy something, if someone will buy it for more at a later stage, maybe, probably not. But you will have a fantastic piece of art. And that's, that's the thing. It's kind of a love story. You fall in love with the art and you would like to have it. In
your book, you also mentioned that there are no rules in the art market, just deals. There are price manipulations and cartels. So how can a collector even protect himself against this?
First of all, you have to accept reality. The art world is a place filled with deals and hardly any rules. Of course, a fraud is a fraud, but a handshake is the strongest thing in the art world. And I think that's very sympathetic. And I think that's kind of the fascination with the art market, that it's not so regulated. Mm-hmm. I like that. So you don't mind, like at some point you're paying maybe much more than... I certainly mind if I pay more. No, no, but I usually buy very contemporary, cutting-edge new art. And in that market, the prices are lower and it's more transparent. So of course, at the other end of the market, like if you want to buy a Picasso or something, it's much more difficult to figure out what a fair price is, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting because in your book you also mentioned that when you buy from a gallery, basically you're already losing money because they take 50% of commission, so you already lost 50%.
I wouldn't say you lose it, but if you buy something for 100, it's kind of worth 50 when you leave the gallery. That's true. Mm.
So what do you make of digitalization in the art market? Can it bring more transparency? You're not very active on social media?
No, I'm not big on social media. People spend too much energy, I think, in general, on social media. You need to have a life. But I think in terms of technology, of course, the market gets more transparent, but also gets, easier to sell works because you can send JPEGs, you can Skype, talk on the phone, exchange things, you get so much information from Instagram, etc. Mm-hmm. So of course it's very good for the market, of course.
Okay. So you buy one artwork per week, I read, more or less. But at some point, I imagine you have no space anymore. When do you sell art and why?
I don't buy one piece every week anymore. I used to, as you said, for many years.
You had to slow down.
But this year I will have, it will be 3 museum shows with art from my collection. It will be in Madrid, curated by Tanya König, the Swiss curator, fantastic curator. And it will be another one in Arles at Fondation Van Gogh, also curated by Tanya König. And then it will be a third one in northern Italy, in Bolzano at Museum, curated by me. So that's very interesting to see your own art getting another life, a new life in some museums. Because one of the reasons you buy art is because you would like to grow with art, and you would like, you know, it's nice to share.
Mm-hmm. So you also put or show, display, share your art in these museums. Do you get any return? Do you? I mean, I guess you're just spending on art. Do you also get something back?
No, you know, this is CNNMoney Switzerland. So I wish I could say this was a very good investment for me, but it's not. I don't get any money from it, and it doesn't cost me anything. Touch wood. But it's a great pleasure. And you know, art is about, to me, it's about slowness, it's about contemplation, it's about silence, it's about understanding yourself as you also understand the piece. And so it's about enlightenment, and it's about living a great, privileged life. And I'm very grateful for that. So I'm grateful to the artists, I'm grateful to the gallerists. And one reason I wrote this book, because I think, you know, many people would have a greater life if they had some really fantastic art in their home. Mm-hmm.
You want to make it more accessible, because I feel like there's also sometimes a bit of a gap. People think, oh no, this art world, this is just for people that have a lot of money, and I don't go there. It's very elitist. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it's true. It's a very elitistic society, and most people are, like you talk about the 1%, but this is a 0.1%. This kind of in the art world, but for me, you know, I'm well off, I made my own money, but I'm not rich in that sense. That's why also I wrote this book, to show that you don't need that much money to build a great collection.
So what was the craziest thing that you did in order to buy a piece of art? Because you say you're a bit obsessed, you're obsessed with art, so I guess sometimes you're not reasonable. Have you taken a loan before?
Yeah, at least sometimes I spend some time being able to pay the invoices, that's for sure. But you know, it's if you want to have a work, you really have to go for it. And sometimes it's not so sympathetic. But from the beginning of my book, you know, I write about going to New York to buy art for the first time in my life. I was offered this nurse painting by Richard Prince, beautiful painting.
How much did it cost? $50,000?
It cost $50,000. And so I just said right away, I buy it.
Yeah.
And,
wow.
And 4 years later, I sold it for $5 million. So, you know, that happens in the art world, but too seldom.
Yeah.
Because you usually buy something, and as I said, it goes down in value.
So I mean, that was one example that there was really a price increase, but otherwise it doesn't happen often.
No, I think, you know, in general, this whole idea people have that they're going to make money on art is very naive.
Mm-hmm. When we met at Art Basel last year, you told me that you've always collected art by women because you could get a better deal. Tell me about this price difference, male and female artists.
You know, people tend to say that the market is always right, which obviously is not true, because women art, African art, etc., 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 has been undervalued for hundreds of years. So now for many years, it has been possible to buy art of high quality from women at a less price than men. And for me, then I've been buying a lot of female artists because I get more from my money. I think now it's kind of equaling out, but it has been crazy for decades that you can get such great deals from female art.
Then you're here at the Engadin Art Talks. You just gave a speech on why one should go the extra mile or not take the easy way out.
Why make life more difficult?
Yeah, and you are an example of that. You've climbed Mount Everest, you went to the South Pole and the North Pole on your own, and you did some other crazy things. Why doing that to you?
I think we're all born explorers. And we have this spirit of exploration, and it never goes away. Of course, when you're 1 year old, 2 years old, it's slightly getting corrupted by friends, family, parents, kindergarten. So you get more and more civilized and, more one-dimensional. But that spirit of exploration that you really would like to understand the world, doing something extraordinary, is always there. And for me, expeditions to North Pole, South Pole, climbing Mount Everest, sailing the oceans, buying art is very much about wonder. It's very much about curiosity, and it's very much about being obsessed. You need to be obsessed if you're going to build the art collection.
But you also mentioned that you think that you go these extremes because you live you're privileged as well. Someone that is somewhere else maybe doesn't even think about going to the Mount Everest. It's a luxury problem.
Definitely. It's of course, if I was, if I was living in Central Africa, I didn't have to make my life more difficult than necessary because life is already super difficult. But as a Norwegian, if you're going to have a meaningful life, you have to make it more difficult than it has to be.
For me, going to the North Pole sounds very challenging. What about collecting art? Is it for you the same degree of challenge?
But it's definitely true. It's very challenging walking to the North Pole. But it's very, very different. But it's also super challenging building a great collection. You really have to get deep into it and spend time and talk to great people who has more knowledge than you. You need to read. You need to see as much art as possible. And then eventually you have to make up your own mind. Because you can always pay an advisor to do everything for you, but I think some of the beauty of collecting art is to make your own decisions.
You have a publishing house, Kagge Forlag in Oslo. You write books. You worked as a lawyer for 3 years in one of the biggest aluminum companies in the world. So what would you say are you doing now? Is it probably most collecting art, exploring?
No. I work a lot with publishing and also with writing because I started a publishing company and that's how I make a living.
Is that your main income?
Yeah. So I have to be there. You always have to remember what hand which is actually feeding you.
Erling Kagge, what's your next plans beside the three exhibitions you told us about?
I will do a great walk here at Engadin. I think it's crazy to sit inside half the day when it's when it's like this. So that's my major goal.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.